Thank you so much for being here. This is the Communities of Color Nonprofit Stabilization Fund, very first community briefing of the year. So thank you for being here. Please feel free to put your name and organization in the chat. And also, please feel free to use the chat throughout the session, especially if you have questions, because we will have a Q&A at the end. But quickly to introduce myself, I'm Mia Winther Tamaki. I am a program coordinator at the Asian American Federation. We are a leadership organization that has been supporting the Pan-Asian community in New York City through research, advocacy, and programming. And we are the technical assistance partner of the CCNSF initiative, and I'll pass it off to the other partner orgs to introduce themselves.
Thank you so much, Mia. Actually, I want to also acknowledge your other colleague from AAF, Daphne, if you wanted to quickly introduce yourself before we go ahead.
Okay. No worries. My name is Daphne Tomasula, use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Associate Director of Programs at the Federation. I'll pass it back to Francis.
Thank you so much, Daphne, and good afternoon, folks. My name is Francis, he, him pronouns. I'm the grants coordinator at the Coalition for Asian American Children and Families, or CACF. I'll pass it to my colleague, Kit.
Thank you, Francis. Good to see you all. My name is Kit Lau, pronouns she, her. I am the Senior Contracts Coordinator at CACF, and I'll pass it to our other partners.
I can start. Good afternoon. Almirca Santiago from Hispanic Federation. I'm the Vice President for Grants and Capacity Building. And I'll pass it on to my colleague, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Garzone. I'm the Grants and Contract Coordinator at HF, and I'm excited to be here with you all. I'll pass it on to our partner, Yvonne.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yvonne Smothers. I know it says Sarah, but I'm called Yvonne Smothers from New York Urban League. I'm the program coordinator for the Communities of Color Nonprofit Stabilization Fund. And also with us today is our COO, Shalima McCants. So I'll pass it over to her and let her introduce herself.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. Good afternoon, all. My name is Shalima McCant, and I am the Chief Program Officer at the New York Urban League, and excited to be here with you all today and look forward to this engaging session. Thank you so much.
We can get started with the background. This is actually the 12th year of the program, and we are really excited to offer this again after so many years. A thank you to electeds and organizations who really helped us continue to get this funding. There is a lot of advocacy work that happens on the back end to make this program continue happening. And we also ask that you advocate and contact elected officials and tell them about this program and how it's helpful so that we can continue supporting you and sustaining this funding for more years to come in the future. So the Communities of Color Nonprofit Stabilization Fund was established in 2014 to provide capacity building grants and build up organizational infrastructure, which we know is necessary for any nonprofit, but this type of work is often not funded. So this year, the City Council has allocated $3.7 million to this fund. And with this funding, we're building up your infrastructure so that you can plan for long-term sustainability and providing tools to sustain and grow your organization. And also to offer technical assistance opportunities and spaces for networking where organizations can learn from each other and talk through best practices. Next slide, please. So for the eligible nonprofits, we just want to make sure that you are registered with the city, and if you already have other city contracts, you should be up to date in Passport. Make sure that you are registered with the state's Charities Bureau, and also we ask that you have been a 501c3 for at least 2 years, which is very important. We've had groups who have come to briefings who are not yet at the 2-year mark and have applied for funding later. This initiative is funded by the City Council, so you must be based in New York City, and 75% of the community that you serve must be based in New York City. You need to be a direct services organization serving communities with more than 51% or more people of color, and you need to be doing targeted outreach to those communities. Regarding the budget, last year we got approval so you need to qualify, you need to have a organizational budget between 150,000 to 3.5 million. And we want to allow more organizations to build their capacity to continue providing essential services. So last year 2 years ago, we were able to get this amount increased. And we get a lot of questions on what budget to use. Please look at your most recently filed 990 form, because that's the budget we'll use to determine eligibility. If you have specific questions about that, you can email the administrating org that you're applying to. And we want to know that you're committed to equal employment opportunities and that you are committed and have the capacity to provide culturally competent services. A lot of groups do good work and use fiscal sponsors, but unfortunately, you aren't eligible for this funding if you do. In the past, we've had groups who have tried to move on from fiscal sponsors to bring financial operations in-house and were eligible for funding later on. Next slide, please. And now we're going to review the different types of capacity building projects. This will include management, information, systems design and development, financial management and planning, evaluation and outcomes system development, leadership development, new program planning and development, strategy and organizational development, collaboration and strategic alliances. Some examples from the past include setting up financial systems. Some have done succession planning. If you're looking for more ideas or more specific examples of projects, those are listed on our website, so you can refer to that. And we want to emphasize that this funding opportunity is for capacity building projects, not program implementation. And additionally, we'd like to emphasize that if you applied in the past, you cannot apply for the same project that you have applied for in any other year. You may request up to $35,000 if your organizational budget is between $150,000 and $500,000. And you may request up to $45,000 if your budget is between $500,000 and $1 and $3.5 million. Next slide, please. We want to let you know that CCNSF applications have moved completely online this year and that we are no longer accepting paper submissions. And the applications are posted on CCNSF's website at ccnsf.org/apply. Or next slide, please.
Okay, so the city council vetting process. This is for your organization. What I usually say to people is please check everything in your organization. Check your background, check all the little things that can cause you not to receive this grant. So the city council does the following vetting process: the Lexis Comprehensive Business Report Search, related entities, principals, tax warrants, which are very important, liens, workers' compensations, violations, and addresses. Please check your organization to make sure they're not holding any liens, tax warrants, because oftentimes we get application and we choose your organization. But once we send it over to council for vetting, they find these items, and it can be avoided if you just do this before the vetting process. news article search, which they search for negative news about your organization. IRS database search, which I said tax exempt status. New York State Department of Corporations database, your incorporation status. New York State's tax warrant database, of course. New York City Department of Buildings, location and occupancy status. The New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, which regard to child care services, daycare center inspections, and make sure all of your paperwork is up to par. Review of use of funds is to ensure that monies are not used in any prohibited manner. I've had or we've known of organizations that take these fundings and use it for fund other things that are not related to the actual grant. So we don't want that. So they do a review and they find out if anyone is guilty of that. Conflict of interest forms, charities exemption if necessary, and authorization review forms. Next slide. Okay, we also have the city council vetting process for consultants, which is basically the same thing. Lexis comprehensive business report search, principals, tax warrants, liens, workers' compensation violation addresses. These are for your chosen consultants. They also do the same things, news articles to search for negative news. Your consultants must be registered with the state attorney general's office. They use Google social media search also for news, negative, social media, whatever. And the conflict of interest form, they must provide the proper forms when they are requesting to be a consultant for your organization. Next slide.
The budget. So as you prepare your applications, we want you to pay extra close attention to the budget and how you are creating it to begin with before you submit to us. There are certain caps that are implemented based off of, city requirements.
They're not holding any liens, tax warrants, because oftentimes we get application and we choose your organization. But once we send it over to council for vetting, they find these items, and it can be avoided if you just do this before the vetting process. LexisNexis news article search, which they search for negative news about your organization. IRS database search, which I said tax exempt status. New York State Department of Corporations database, your incorporation status. New York State's tax warrant database, of course. New York City Department of Buildings, location and occupancy status. The New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, which regard to child care services, daycare center inspections, and make sure all of your paperwork is up to par. Review of use of funds is to ensure that monies are not used in any prohibited manner. I've had or we've known of organizations that take these fundings and use it for fund other things that are not related to the actual grant. So we don't want that. So they do a review and they find out if anyone is guilty of that. Conflict of interest forms, charities exemption if necessary, and authorization review forms. Next slide. Okay, we also have the city council vetting process for consultants, which is basically the same thing. Lexis comprehensive business report search, principals, tax warrants, liens, workers' compensation violation addresses. These are for your chosen consultants. They also do the same things, news articles to search for negative news. Your consultants must be registered with the State Attorney General's office. They use Google, social media search, also for news, negative, social media, whatever. And the conflict of interest form, they must provide the proper forms when they are requesting to be a consultant for your organization. Next slide.
The budget. So as you prepare your applications, we want you to pay extra close attention to the budget and how you are creating it to begin with before you submit to us. There are certain caps that are implemented based off of, city requirements of this initiative. So it starts with salary. Your salary expenses, the line itself, the allocation cannot exceed 30% of the amount that you are requesting. So whether you are requesting 35,000, 45,000, anything in between or under that, you can only allocate 30% of that entire amount. Salary, who can be added to this for the salary or personnel line? Existing staff, right? It cannot be someone that is a volunteer, cannot be someone you are going to hire, right? Because you won't have the necessary information for the budget for them. So it has to be existing staff that are going to be either participating in the training, delivering the training on behalf of what your proposed project is. Fringe benefits are capped at 15%. That is 15% of the 30% that was allocated, not 15% of the amount you are requesting. Consultants are capped at 60% of the entire amount requested again, right? So for example, salary is 30% of 35, but your fringe is 15% of that 30%. Your consultants are 60% of the 35,000. And we have a budget sample just so that you can visualize what the numbers will actually look like. Computer hardware and software expenses, both combined, are also capped at 30% of the budget request. For example, $35,000, you are capped at 30% of that $35,000. And this initiative does not allow for any capital, admin, overhead. And when we say that, we also talk about indirect cost, no rent, right, for your space, for the sustainability of the organization. Those line items are not allowed. Next slide. Here's a sample budget so that you understand exactly all the numbers that I was throwing at you. So for a $35,000 budget, your salaries and wages line is capped at $10,500. So of that 10,500, 15% is 1,575. Your consultants, if capped at 60%, would be $21,000 max that you can allocate. And then OTPS is the remainder of the budget. Now, these are just guidelines so that you understand what the caps are. You don't have to meet the cap. Your consultant does not have to cost you $21,000. You can have more OTPS if you have a project proposal that is much more heavily relying on you needing some sort of technology, right? Whether it's the hardware or the software. And in that case, you are capped at 30% for the hardware and the software lines. Next slide, please. Here, we just provide you with more information so that you're understanding exactly salaries and wages. This is all actually part of your form that would be completed once you are considered an awardee, but we do want you to keep these things in mind as you are preparing your application because we will be looking at the budgets, and if you are not complying with the caps, it can lower the scoring for your application. Staff salaries, again, 30%. Fringe, what is included is workers' comp, disability, unemployment, medical, etc. When it comes to, the grantee stage, this is all stuff that you also have to provide documentation for. So I want to make sure that we're all well aware that this is a reimbursement-based grant, so all of your line items will require backup. Consultants, 60%. OTPS, it can include admission fees, seminars, workshops, right? If we're talking about professional development, leadership development for staff, hardware, software purchases, again, 30% cap. Accounting, fundraising software, if you are working on a financial management project, etc. No administrative fees, no indirect costs, no overhead costs. Next slide. This is an example of the second page of what your budget document would look like. And again, we want you to take this into account, this level of detail for the proposal. This particular form is not going to be accessible for all applications, but it is going to be once you are in the grantee phase. This is the document you will receive so that you can give us a detail of your budget. Executive director, this is just an example, right? Your executive director, or this is the primary person that will be working on your project. They're capped at 30%. That would be the 10,500. Then you give us your fringe benefit detail, right? Reminder, everything requires backup, so you need to have backup documentation to show us exactly what you are claiming. Your consultant, you need to have your invoices, you need to give us the name, what exactly they're working on, what's the project, the amount, and then we detail some of the OTPS so that you can have examples of what you can have under OTPS. You can have supplies if we're talking about board development or really any other initiative, printing, space rental. This is an example so that you can see where space is allowed. If you are going to do some sort of a board retreat or a staff retreat and you need to rent a conference room, that is rent that is allowed. Otherwise, the rent for the organization where you work every day, that's not allowed. And again, no overhead, no administrative. You can buy meals, right, for meetings, for conferences, etc. So there is a wider range of things that you can include. So just pay mind to the things that are not allowable expenses so that it can push your application further down the process. Next slide.
Take note, consultants. Consultants cannot be existing staff or current, former interns or family, relatives of staff or board members. We've known of incidents where family members are on the budget, and that's not allowed. So make sure you're on the up and up with what you're doing, and make sure that these people are not former employees. They don't have an employee email address, and that means an address that's issued to your organization. Make sure your consultant has been properly interviewed and their references have been checked before they are vetted by City Council. The budget allocation for profit and nonprofit consultants are both capped at 60% of the total award, meaning that the award is 35,000, your consultant amount is capped at 21,000. If you're awarded 45,000, your consultant is capped at 27,000. So make sure, but you don't have to use the entire thing, but it's capped at that amount, 60%. All proposed consultants must submit current documentation and will be vetted in the current year. Meaning, we have a lot of organizations that called and say, well, we've used this consultant before, or I've used the same consultant last year. I want to use the same consultant again. Fine, you can do that, but they must be vetted in the current grant and the current award year. So all the information that they submitted before must be resubmitted this year for approval by City Council. Next slide. please identify, we would love for you to identify your consultant when you submit your proposal and attach the documents necessary. We would like for you to attach the resume, contact information, description of consultant appropriateness, the reason for choosing this particular consultant. Now, lots of times people don't submit their consultants with the application. And if you don't, please stand by with your consultant. Be working on your consultant all the time, who you have in mind, so that we can get the process going early and not have to wait for the consultant to be vetted at a later date. Next slide. Tips for engaging with consultants. Have clear expectations of the project requirements and their role and deliverables. Make sure consultants have all necessary documents for City Council vetting. Define your project goals and make sure they are on board with those goals. Schedule check-ins to check the progress and address concerns, and communicate openly with your consultant. Now, I've had someone even just now this week to ask me if they can have a consultant based in Africa. Well, your consultants can be placed in other states, but I would suggest that you not use a consultant based in another country. They have different timelines. Anything can happen. When you need to get in touch with them right away, you need to have access to your consultant. So I would not suggest that you do anything of that nature. Thank you. Next slide.
Here are some important dates to remember during the CCNSF fiscal year 26 grant period. The request for applications is open now, and the applications have a deadline of October 17th at 5 p.m. Today is the first community briefing, and we will have 2 more to follow on September 30th and October 7th. Your applications will be reviewed by the allocation committee during November, and the awards will be announced during January. The next 4 bullet points are for organizations that are awarded, and if you are awarded and you accept the award, the CCNSF contract does require the awardees to submit an interim report and a final report. The interim report will be due during April 2026, and the final report will be due July 2026. Please know that you must spend down your full award by June 30th, 2026, and there'll be no extensions for that. CCNSF awardees also will have to take a minimum of 3 capacity building training sessions during the contract period between January and June 30th, 2026. And the topics of the classes and trainings will be provided to you during the contract period. Next slide, please.
So, in terms of resources where folks can primarily go and just learn more about the CCNSF fund, we strongly remind folks that our main website um, is constantly updated and has all the important information that you're looking for, especially with FAQs, especially if you're looking for a consultant list that we provide as a helpful resource guide and a tool that can help aid in the research process. And of course, there are some samples regarding the project budget and other samples that can, again, give folks a bit of focus, clarity, and familiarity with the application process. Also, please note that after today's briefing that there will be a recording available and we will share it with folks, and it will also be available on the website. And as you're browsing through the website, we also list our contact information. This is our up-to-date information of all the CCNSF partner orgs and who the primary contact is. Again, as mentioned a couple slides ago, the application deadline is October 17th at 5 p.m. So we strongly recommend folks, even after today's briefing, and if you plan to attend the other two briefings, you're more than welcome to. But as you're thinking about your application, what you'd like, the responses that you'd like to draft, and if you encounter any issues or you need to meet with us offline to discuss more. Again, we strongly encourage you to reach out to us as early as possible. Please, please don't leave any of this to the last minute because we know how busy things get and we acknowledge folks have other high priorities around that time when it's around the deadline of submitting the application. So please reach out to us as early as possible. We are here for you. We are happy to answer any questions you have. We're happy to provide additional clarifications. And more importantly, we definitely want you to submit your application in time with little to no stress. So we are going to now move into the question and answer portion of this briefing. Before I pass it over to Shalima, who will facilitate the Q&A portion, we just want to remind folks that for your questions, again, thank you in advance of those that have already sent in their questions via chat box. And if you want to unmute yourself, just use the raise hand emoji just so that, again, we can be respectful of folks who want to ask questions. And just as a friendly reminder as well, please keep your questions primarily to technical questions. If you have questions that require a deeper conversation, and if you need to speak to someone specific from CCNSF, we would strongly advise you to make a one-on-one appointment, and we'd be happy to, again, talk to you more further offline. So with that being said, we will pass it to Shalima from New York Urban League, who will facilitate the Q&A portion.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Francis, and thank you all for those who have added their questions to the chat. And if there are any additional questions that come up, you're definitely free to unmute yourself and ask and or add it to the chat, and I will come back to you. I have grouped the questions in categories based on how they were shared. So I want to go back to some fiscal questions first. So one of the questions asked was, can you clarify the meaning of fiscal sponsors? I'm not sure who covered the category with the fiscal component, but if someone can clarify what's meant by fiscal sponsors.
I mean, I can chime in, and if I'm missing anything, feel free.
Absolutely.
But organizations that use fiscal sponsors are organizations that need some say fiscal sponsor, fiscal conduit. You don't work on your own back end office stuff, right? Like there's another entity that handles your payments, whether they're receiving payments on your behalf from funders, issuing payments, doing your payroll, etc. So it's an organization that provides you that capacity, that back end office management.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And if there's additional question after that, definitely let us know. But I am going to move on to the next question, which is categorized under fiscal as well, but this is regarding audit. So this organization notes that they are not required to do a fiscal audit. Must we have a financial audit, or will you accept another fiscal document or letter from an accountant? Please advise. So again, they're not required to do a fiscal audit. So they wanted to assess if any other documentation would be submitted. I mean, would be eligible to be included in place of an audit.
Yes, I could take that one. If your organization, based on your organization budget size, if you already know that you don't need an audit, you can have your accountant submit some type of financial statement. It could be a balance sheet, income statement, or a compilation report.
Okay, hopefully that does answer your question. And again, if additional information is needed, just add so in the chat. And then the last question under fiscal is there a suitable funding category that will support engaging a grant writer to implement the business and fundraising plan that was previously funded? I may need you to clarify here, because I want to make sure I'm reading your question correctly, but it is there a suitable funding category that will support engaging a grant writer to implement the business and funding plan that was previously funded? Let me know if I read that correctly and if anyone is able to answer that question.
I can start with saying this initiative is more of an exploratory grant and not an implementation. So if, let's say, you needed a fundraising and business plan, you would use NSF for that. And if you had to...
The next question is grouped under application. So the question is, if someone has applied before and wasn't accepted, is there any process for constructive feedback of previous applications or grants if the organization was not awarded? So again, this person applied before, they was not selected. They want to assess with the particular organizations if there's an opportunity to receive feedback.
As far as we're concerned, there is no process of giving feedback for an application. We have so many applicants. And when we send a letter out to deny the applicant, we usually say that we have so many applications, we can't just give you direct feedback. But what I do suggest is that you do the community briefings, and anything that you think you've had trouble with or something, you may contact one of us, but we can't condone or give you any feedback about previous year's applications.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Can I just add to that? Sometimes because of the volume, it becomes a sheer numbers thing, and it's, rated by an external panel, and sometimes you fall right below the line of the funding that we have available to allocate and the number of organizations that make it through. So, we encourage you to always do your best and to really pay attention to the details, right? They say the devil's in the details sometimes, and something like a budget that doesn't make sense with the initiative could be enough to lower the rating and put you right below that line.
No, thank you both. That's great feedback. And then one other question that may fit under applications was, now again, you may have to clarify here, but it said, did CCNSF award grants in the cycle of 2025? I just want to make sure I understand what you mean when you say award grants in 2025. Sage, I believe that was your question. Are you free to come off mute and explain?
Yeah, I can clarify that question.
Thank you.
Yeah, we applied in 2025 and never, I think the deadline was 2024 October, but never received any updates one way or another about the grant, and then just wasn't sure if it happened last year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, you saying you applied in 2020,
but never got a response.
You applied in 2024, but you didn't receive a response regarding your application?
Yes.
Okay, so I think I can say this for everyone. So the application process was closed, grantees were notified, and programs were implemented. So it may just be that maybe the communication got lost somewhere, but I would encourage you to reach out to the organization that you applied with just to clarify your status.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation. If anybody else wants to chime in, please feel free.
You did.
All right, thank you so much.
No problem. And then Linda had asked our question regarding I think this was regarding the audit. So she just wanted to clarify, she is able to submit her 2026 projected organizational budget or 2025 operational financial statement instead of a financial audit. Is that acceptable for her organization? And this was regarding the audit. Her organization is not required to do the audit, so she wanted to know if she can use alternate documentation. And I don't want to mispronounce your first name, but I believe it was our colleague, last name Santiago, that answered this question before. Let me know if this was with you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that for me? I was answering another question on the side.
No problem. So her question, originally she had noted that they wasn't required to do the audit. So now she's clarifying that they do have a 2026 projected organizational budget or a 2025 operational financial statement instead of a financial audit. Is that documentation possible?
Oh, that was Kit. Kit,
Oh,
what
I'm
do you
sorry.
think? It's okay.
The eligibility requirement is that you need to be a minimum, have your organizational budget needs to be a minimum of 150,000 and no more than 3.5 million. And that is determined by your 990 filing. I think when you're talking about the organizational budget, the projected organizational budget for 2005 or 2026, that's not the financial statement that is required that we're asking for to send in with your application. The financial statement is a review, right, of your
Yes, Kit. No, I
recent year.
understand that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that our organization, for our fiscal purposes, are not. They do not require us to do an audit, a financial audit, and of course, certain grants do require that. So last year we did not have to submit it, and I don't remember because my grant writer isn't on here now. But I just really want to make sure instead of an audited financial review, what exactly will you accept instead of that? That's what my question is. Like, will you, because I think before you rolled off a few things that I couldn't catch it, you said a compilation of this, blah, blah, blah. So I just want to make sure, like, because whatever else you require, we can provide. I just want to provide what you need.
Yeah,
So is it,
sure.
See,
Yeah.
so is it a financial statement from 2025? Is it a projected operational budget for 2026? Whatever it is, we can provide that for you. I just need to know what it is.
Yeah, I could clarify that. It could be a financial statement from 2025, such as a balance sheet, a cash flow statement, income statement.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
absolutely.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. I'm going to move over to the category focused on the grantee categories. So this organization has applied before, but they was not awarded. They wanted just to confirm that they can apply again for the same category that they wasn't awarded for before.
Hey,
So I believe,
Shalima,
yes. Yep, go ahead.
I can answer this question. Yes, so if you if you applied for a project area but were not awarded in the prior cycle, you can reapply for that same project area for this cycle. The only thing that would not be acceptable is if you apply for a project area that you've already been awarded for. You can't apply to that same area. Hopefully that clarifies that a bit.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate that. We're going to now transition into the category under consultants. So we do have some questions here regarding consultants. So my first question received was, can the consultant be someone that we have already been working with as a consultant? So I know there are some requirements regarding the consultants. So just want to confirm, can the consultant be someone that we have already been working with as a consultant? And I believe, Yvonne, you covered the consultant category. Is that you? If it wasn't, if anyone else can chime in there, that would be helpful.
She's on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, there you
Am
go.
I on? Okay.
We
So
hear you.
yes, as I stated before, it doesn't matter. You can use a consultant that you have previously worked with or working with. However, the consultant must turn in updated information. They have to be re-vetted this year, even though you've been working with them before. As long as they're vetted and they pass city council, then you are free to work with them again.
And I
Is
think
that
those details that Yvonne mentioned, that they cannot have an organizational email, sometimes when you work with a consultant for so long, they
Right.
become almost like staff. If the relationship is too confusing for DYCD to decipher, they might not allow it. So no email that's organizationally issued.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying that and providing that feedback as well. There is a reference to a consultant list on the website. One of the clarifying questions is, are these consultants listed because they have already been vetted with agencies, or will they need to be vetted again? So I know you mentioned someone must be vetted every year, but in regards to the listing that is available on the website, and I did not look at the website yet, so I don't know if it really is there, but that's the question.
Hey, Shalima, I can take that question. So, the consultant list that you're currently seeing on the website, it's a directory list of consultants that have worked with past awardees prior. Um, they even though they were vetted and cleared in prior years, as Yvonne mentioned in her presentation, the consultants still have to undergo a vetting again, and that's the standard protocol for this award process. Um, but in addition to the consultants that have been listed or that are currently listed on the list that you're seeing on the website, there's also other consultants that folks have just listed on there. But again, the consultant list, it's a resource guide. It's like we in no way, shape, or form, these aren't folks we are recommending or endorsing. These are just a list of consultants that folks can refer to as you're thinking about your project proposal, who you want to potentially bring on. Again, this is just purely a resource aid tool and nothing more. Hopefully that answers the question. And again, if you need more clarifications, please chime in.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So that is the end of the questions that I have on my end. However,
I'm sorry, Shalima.
I'm going to go to you.
I'm
I was going to you right now. I was going to you right now. So I was saying that was the end of the questions on my end. However, I do see a hand raised. So I want to give Gonzalez an opportunity to ask the question. And then again, if anyone else has a question, please raise your virtual hand and or drop it into the chat. Is it Jani?
Honey. Thank you, Shalima. And thank you everyone for putting this together. I asked the question about the consultants because the process of vetting it's very cumbersome. It takes a little bit of time to get everybody vetted through DYCD. So the question was basically around, if those consultants you have worked with them in the past, does that make the vetting process easier with the city council, or it just takes the same amount of time?
Same amount of time.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I do have two additional questions that did come into the chat. One of the first questions, okay. The first one I see right now is, can you provide an example of a project that this grant would work for? Example, hiring a new staff person, funding an exhibition, funding an archive, revamping organizational structure. So just, are there any examples that we can give regarding a project that has been funded? I believe that's what we're trying to, the question is asking. And Sharon, let me know if I have that wrong, but that's what I believe I'm reading. Okay, I believe that's what I'm reading, guys. Let me know.
There are examples on the website that she can reference. And if those don't suffice, if you still want to have a conversation about it, we recommend reaching out to the partner organization that you'll be submitting to, just so that there's a more detailed consideration of your question, right? You can go into more detail that you don't have to go into in this open forum.
Thank you so much. One additional question is, we understand it takes some time to hire, to vet the consultants. Is there a timeline or any guidance you can give regarding the consultants? This is one question asked. but from when the consultant is vetted until when the project can be put in place?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's a very important question, right? Because there is no normal timeline. It's really depends on when DYCD can finish vetting the consultants, clearing the consultants, and every CCNSF cycle, um, uh, there'll be different timelines of when we get the clearance from DYCD. Of course, we're working very hard to be able to push DYCD every year for them to vet the consultants as soon as possible. I can tell you that in fiscal year 25, the awarded organizations had the official clearance to work with their consultants in March. But know that you can start talking with your consultants in January on non-billable hours. And once your consultant does get cleared, you can bill them for the hours that you have previously worked with them. So we are trying this year to push it up, and so we're going to do our best on that.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kit. There was one question that came into me directly, so I wanted to ask and sort of get everyone's feedback. The question is regarding it being a reimbursable grant. How long does the process take? So just for my own clarification, I know for this grant, it is a program where you must put the money up front and then you submit your report and get reimbursed. So the question is, how long does the reimbursement process take?
Yes, this is a reimbursement grant, which means you have to pay for your project costs up front and then request reimbursement to receive the funds that you've spent. I can only speak for CACF. When we receive the expense claims during interim or final reporting, we do tell our awardees it may take up to 45 days. And many times we are able to remit the payment earlier than 45 days.
Thank you, Kit. Is there any other organization that may have some tips on individuals who are looking to apply for this reimbursable grant regarding timing? I know, similar to Kit, I would definitely share on behalf of the New York Urban League. We definitely do realize that a lot of the organizations applying are small and they sort of need the funding, but we also must stress that it is a reimbursable program. And unfortunately, sometimes it does take delays in getting the funding process. So I also ask you to consider that when you are applying, because we want to make sure that the programs can be successful, but also realize that funding may impact the work or the turnaround time. So I appreciate Kit actually giving a number of 45 days because we want to make sure programs are clear about what the timing can look like as well.
Oh, I
All
just
right.
want to emphasize that it's not guaranteed. We
Oh, correct.
try.
Totally agree, Kit. Thank you. Thank you. And I appreciate that. Again, there are no other questions in the chat, and I do not see any other hands raised. Let me just double check. I do not see any other hand raised. So I'm going to turn it back to my colleagues. Thank you all so much for your questions. We appreciate them. And turn it back to my colleagues for the next phase.
Okay, so thank each and every one for joining this session this afternoon. And feel free to reach out to us with your personal questions via email, if at all possible. Or feel free to check out our website, ccnsffund.org. You will gather a wealth of information from our website. And remember, the most important thing is this is a reimbursable grant. You must spend the money to receive the funding, and you must remember to back up everything with documentation. So please, thank you, each and every one of you, and we look forward to a speedy, wonderful FY26. Any other questions, any other comments from my colleagues? If not, we'll see you next session on September 30th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.